TV Off is one of those songs that everyone's been talking about. Of course, you have that beat switch that everyone loves.
That's the triumph part I was talking about, man. I feel like
I did not like that whole thing, him yelling mustard.
No, mustard!
No. Good afternoon, beautiful people. This is another episode of Album Mode. We review a new album every single week. We look at the lyrics, the production, the overall aesthetic of the album, and how that album fits into the context of that artist's career. For everyone watching on YouTube, you know what to do. Hit that like button, leave us a comment, let us know how wrong we always are, and of course, make sure you're subscribed. My name is Adriel Smiley, aka AdrielSmiley.com, aka Adriel Smiley Official, aka The Godfather, and we're here with His Royal Highness, aka The Bunny, aka No Longer a Munch, for one more month, aka The Champion, King Grant.
Welcome back, people. It's Album Mode. This time we're reviewing the great King Kendrick Lamar.
That was a crazy intro.
With GNX, his latest album. I don't even know how many albums deep he is now, probably 6 or 7.
This is 6th album.
And I would say album or mixtape. It depends on who you're asking. Some people are thinking that's a mixtape. Some people think that's an album. Some people are suspicious of another project on the horizon. Is there ever an album, Kendrick Lamar album, that comes out that people don't think another one is like coming out in a week or two or something like that?
I think that's usually people don't think that. I think I'm part of those people who think that there could be something else. But I think thinking there's something else is also a part of people think about this project. And we were trying to separate the two. But if you're being real, you thinking something else is coming is based on what you think of this project as a standalone. So I think it's very interesting that this is somehow not enough to some people, that there has to be something else coming. This is actually the shortest album he's ever made.
I know.
44 minutes.
12 songs.
20 seconds. A surprise drop through PG Lang and Interscope Records. The follow-up to Mr. Morale. This is his first album since leaving TDE, which he's been signed to since 2005. So, yeah, almost 20 years. And, of course, I think everyone would love to know this. This album was executive produced by Kendrick Lamar and Dave Free.
Yeah. And then the two other producers, Jack Antonoff and Soundwave. Shout out Jack Antonoff.
Yep.
Being able to maneuver in this way where he's releasing West Coast inspired and West Coast just not even inspired, West Coast tracks. Something I did not think was in his repertoire whatsoever.
I'm not giving him as much credit as it feels like you're giving him. From the interviews that I've seen, the articles that I've read, is he came more at the end to kind of polish things up and give it a different feel. I don't know that Jack Antonoff made any of these beats himself. So let's not go crazy with all of that. But yes, production credits, he does have them.
You don't think that he's setting the beat pack? You think Jack Antonoff is setting out beat packs?
For this album, they're saying he did not do that. Maybe in his life he has. I'm not going to speak on that. But for this album, the rumor is that no beat packs were sent.
Oh, okay. Well, it's for me, it's just interesting to see that he's associated with this, because Jack Antonoff is a many times collaborator with Taylor Swift. And if you've heard Taylor Swift's music, especially in the past 3 iterations, it sounds nothing like this.
Yep.
So it's just really interesting to see that move. But yeah, Kendrick Lamar back after Mr. Morale, which I thought he was going to be gone for a while, but then the Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef heated up, and we know how that went. So then we were thinking, okay, like there's got to be our project, because he's doing the Super Bowl. You know, can't just go from Mr. Morale, which was I think two years ago at this point now.
Yeah, 2022.
And go into the beef and not have any new material when you're doing probably the biggest show of your life.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that you said that we thought he was going to go away for a long time. I feel like that has been a narrative around Kendrick for some time. And I went back and looked at his past projects, and I'm like, there really is only one time where he took this extended amount of time off. And again, it's just somehow been a part of how we view him and we just expect it now. And then as well, the best thing that I thought during the beef, which was undercovered, I would say, was that he made a lot of these songs in the beef pretty quickly. And a lot of Kendrick fans have been pushing the narrative of he takes so much time because he's crafting these masterpieces. And after the beef was done, all these producers got on podcasts, got on interviews, and started saying that's not what happens at all. He makes these songs pretty fastly. in one day, gets it done. And I think that's like, it doesn't kind of change how good the music is or is not. But I think that we're at a place now where we don't have to make any myths, okay? Like we can put that to bed. All the myths we try and create about Kendrick to make him better than he already is, he's already a GOAT. Already one of the best ever. If you're unfamiliar with Kendrick Lamar, I'm actually surprised of how you are on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
That feels crazy to me. But now that we're 2 years removed from Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, how many of those songs are in your rotation? How do you feel about the project? Now that we're 2 years removed, it didn't just come out. You don't have to like it anymore. How do you feel about it now?
I look at you, so you didn't have to like it, like it's obligatory to like Kendrick Lamar's music.
It is.
I think that Father Time, I still listen to because Sampha's on it. I love Sampha. And I also really like N95. I was one of the early champions, remember?
Yeah.
During our review, I was one of the early champions of N95, saying that it was like such an amazing song.
I love when you say you're an early champion.
I was.
No, but N95 is the most streamed song on the album.
No, here's the thing.
So it's like when we review the album 4 days later and you're like, I was the first one. It's like, you thought it was a good song like everyone else thought it was a good song.
No. That's not true. People were talking. What was the song that people were talking about? I don't want to get too distracted, but I think people were talking about different tracks, and N95 kind of was just like, people were talking about Mother I Sober. Remember Mother I Sober? Everyone was talking about Mother I Sober for a while, and then and then Father Time. Also, people were talking about Father Time, and then people were like, oh, what's the best beat? Remember, people were like, but what's the best beat? Is it Rich Spirit? Is it Father Time? And I'm like, you guys are not paying attention. N95 is the track on this album.
You're talking about a different corner of the discourse, but I'll give you your credit.
Thank you.
You, like 487 million people.
I was one of the first.
Yes, 4 days later, you were in the first. I think N95 was a great song.
What about you? Do you have any songs? That you still like for Mr. Morale?
N95, I used to listen to a lot more, not as much, but I used to listen to N95 a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Father Time, of course. Count Me Out is still a song I listen to a lot, and then Silent Hill as well. But I wanted to talk about Mr. Morale a little bit because Mr. Morale was the first album where I felt like the convergence of you have to like Kendrick, he's the chosen one, and I'm so smart for liking Kendrick. Those two people came together for Mr. Morale because I was out on Saturday and I was asking some people about the project. I said, what do you guys think, Mr. Morale?
Mm-hmm.
And one person...
GNX, I mean.
No, I'm Mr. Morale.
Oh, okay.
And because some people were saying like Mr. Morale and GNX are two of his worst albums, and so I said, you know, how do you view Mr. Morale to kind of put those in the same category? And this person said, oh, I actually like Mr. Morale. I think it's underrated.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, how many songs do you listen to? And they named 3 songs. Like maybe we just named 3 or 4 songs each, and a couple of the same songs.
Mm-hmm.
This is a double disc. So to have 3 songs that you like from a double disc album and to have that feeling of I love this album, I thought that was interesting because 2 years later, this person was like, no, I think it's underrated. Like, I actually love that project. Yeah. And I'm like, well, you meant to say is you love Father Time. and I think like Kendrick is one of those artists where the fact that, you know, you don't listen to 80% of the album anymore is somehow a lost memory, but it adds to his legendary status.
Well, I think that what happens with Kendrick Lamar is because it's so dense. Like a lot of his music is really dense.
Yeah.
Like if you listen to it, it has to be one of those instances where you sit down and just like listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to just listen to his music passively. So the songs that we're talking about, N95, that's a good standalone track.
Yeah.
Father Time, those are standalones where like, oh, you could just like hear it and then like the message is wrapped up in maybe that song and maybe not as dense as, you know, something like Mother I Sober or even Savior or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why people also talk about Kendrick Lamar as like, oh, his music is like, it lacks replayability. Mm-hmm. It's because it's like, actually it's just dense and there's just like, a lot of shit happening in his music when it comes to like the message and themes and even the songs, like what they reference and production styles and all that type of stuff. It's not as just like, it's not as like palatable in the sense that it's easily consumed.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I think he's a special case where 2 things can be true. And I think that I've really paid attention over the last 3-4 years of how the conversation about hip hop as a whole Kendrick Lamar is part of that changing.
Yeah.
And I feel like this album is a part of that. More on Kendrick, the only rapper to win all the Grammy Awards in the rap category in the same ceremony. He did it twice, 2016 and 2018. The first rapper to win a Pulitzer Prize for his music, the album Damn in 2018. And like I said before, this is the first album on PG Lang with him and Dave Free. PG Lang standing for program language. And then I wanted to say a bit about the album itself, it being called GNX. Now, March of 2024, Lamar shared on social media that he purchased a vintage limited run 1987 Buick Grand National Experience, GNX, the same model that his father used to take him home in from the hospital. So that tie-in of him placing the breadcrumbs, coming back to it. When this album came out, you said a bunch of sent it to you. I'm sure everyone in every group chat, it was like blowing up with this project.
I know. It was like a nuclear bomb, and every single person that like really knows me texted me this album like 12:05 p.m. They're like, "Yo, did you see this new album? This new Kendrick album came out." It's like craziness. Huh?
And I gotta give credit to Saf once again, my man from the UK, first.
Oh yeah,
always first somehow. So
he has the notifications on.
No, clearly, big shout out to Saf. This was a surprise drop.
Yeah,
and we haven't had as many surprise drops on this podcast, but this is the most significant surprise drop since blank.
Beyonce
Lemonade in 2013.
That's probably that was also nuclear bomb because people were not really doing that. You know,
yes.
Before that, you could say like maybe in the past, like some artists was they like low key dropped an album and stuff like that. But up until that Beyonce album, people were like, "There's a rollout," or you were notifying people. Unless you were like Chief Keef, where you're like, "Yeah, my album's coming out in 2 days." Most people were notifying people. There was a rollout, this whole social media push, all that type of stuff. Then this Beyonce album just appeared. It just appeared.
Yep.
She didn't say anything. There was no press. Beyonce barely even does press anymore. So it was just like, it just appeared on Spotify. And then people were like, oh, and then they go and listen to it all the way through. And I feel like this is similar because it wasn't even on a Friday night. It was a Friday in the noon. It was in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
You just see like this gray picture of Kendrick Lamar in a car and you're like, wait, what? And you look through and you're like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm like counting all the songs. So I'm like, maybe it's just like a Lucy or something. You know what I mean? And then you go down and you're like, oh shit, it's like 12 songs. I'm like, look at the time. It's like 44 minutes. Yo, this is a real album, right? And then you start listening and you're like, right? So that's what I felt like leading into this.
Yeah, I agree. Beyonce's Lemonade is one I thought of as well. Online, I was seeing what people were saying. Some people mentioned Blonde. I don't consider Blonde a surprise album in the same way.
Oh, yeah.
I was deep in those Tumblr streets at those times. So the rumors were running rampant.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel as much of a surprise. Drake, if you're reading this, is Too Late, I think goes in this category as well because that was a bomb when that happened.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
All-Star Weekend. So I like having a surprise album back. And I think if you couple that with it not coming at midnight as well, like I like where the place for music is in, where people are doing things in kind of unorthodox way.
Yeah, because
I'm saying people just Kendrick Lamar at this point.
No, Tyler the Creator released his album on a Monday.
No, Tyler the Creator as well, and not at midnight. So I like to have these things happening.
Yeah, me too. L.A. they're up right now doing innovative and new stuff, even just album releases. So
yeah, L.A. is up right now. Before we talk about the intro, who do you think had the best feature on this project? Everyone's been talking about them. There's a bunch of good ones. I think the answer is pretty obvious, but who do you think had the best feature on here?
Okay, well, I'm going to go against the grain here because I have a feeling I know what everybody's going to say.
You've been saying you're going against the grain, and you won't be against the grain at all. Just say who you're going to say, because it's never against the grain.
I think it's Lefty Gunplay for his outro on TV Off.
Chris, is that against the grain?
Is it? I think most people are going to say SZA, man. I think most people are going to say SZA.
Okay, fair.
Especially with Gloria. Gloria is a really good song.
Yeah.
Right, so I think most people are going to say Gloria and SZA, but I'm saying Lefty Gunplay for his outro. Even though that it's only an outro, I thought that it had so much style to the entire song. So, it's got the crazy triumphant, horns and Kendrick Lamar basically making fun of Drake in this entire song. And then at the end, where he's like, here we go, part where he's like, I'm looking at my phone instead of my fucking laptop.
Get it together.
Hold on a second. I'm looking at my phone instead of my laptop. Like I don't have like a huge screen in front of me. Where Lefty Gunplay says crazy shit gets crazy, spooky. Sorry. When Lefty Gunplay says shit gets crazy, scary, spooky, hilarious, crazy, scary, spooky, hilarious, and then he repeats it. I can literally sing somebody doing one of these. You know what I mean? Like a flex. And I really enjoyed that. There's this like clip on Twitter of Schoolboy Q doing that flex, right?
Yeah.
That flex move in the 360. And I felt like that's literally exactly what's happening on that song, especially considering Kendrick Lamar was this entire song is about Drake, right? So him making fun of Drake and then also flexing on him at the end, I thought that was awesome.
So you think this whole song is about Drake? That's interesting.
Yeah, that song is about. Well, I think it's about Drake.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
We can get into it later, but I think it's about.
Yeah,
Drake.
I didn't get that from this record, but again, anything kind of Lamar says can be put towards Drake at this point. Like he talks about an op, we can just assume
is Drake.
Yeah, Drake could be the op. Yeah, I think that's a good one for best feature.
Okay.
I feel like there's no wrong answer, honestly.
Really? I do.
What's the wrong answer here?
GNX. Anybody who made an appearance on GNX.
Ooh. Really?
I don't know who chose that beat. I don't know who chose the people. I don't know who chose for the song to be on the sequencing. I don't know who chose this because that shit could have just been left off easy.
Démar just said something bad about Kendrick, that he's not perfect. Cancel him.
That song, I actually think that song is probably Kendrick Lamar's worst song ever. And I'm not even joking.
You think so?
Yeah, I genuinely think that.
I'm not going to go that far.
Is there a worst song?
There are some songs on OD that I didn't like,
okay. But I didn't like, okay. Well, go ahead. I'm like, I actively, okay, I'm going to tell you something about GNX real quick. It got to a point when I think when I first listened to it, this album, I was listening to GNX and I was like, yo, what is this? And then I stopped it. Like I cut it off. I didn't even listen to Gloria. I didn't listen to Gloria until the second time I listened to the album because I was like, GNX sucked that bad. I didn't even listen to the next song.
Wow.
Okay. So that's how bad GNX is to me. I think the production, booty.
Wow.
I think that the rapping.
You just don't have the footwork for GNX. You don't have the footwork.
No,
you don't have the footwork.
And even Young Threat, like his last verse that didn't even fucking rhyme for like 4 bars, it was garble, bro.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna stand up for GNX. It's not the best song, but I just think personally you don't have the footwork for a song like GNX. But I want to talk about the intro, Whacked Out Murals. This I feel like was a great move from him in terms of having an intro that like he really talks about so much of what happened in the past, whatever, 3, 4, 5 months. And a lot of people are wondering, because, Kendrick Lamar fans think that he takes 10 years to make everything. But I think since that, myth had been busted, a lot of people were like, how much of this project was made after the beef? And when you hear the intro feels like it was all made after the beef.
Yeah. I feel like this entire thing was made after the beef.
Right? And I think like that is something that, one, he's rapping more in the present in terms of like saying what's going on in his life at this moment, and being kind of particular about it. But as well, the myth is busted in a different way because this is his first non-concept album. So
yeah, that's true.
I think the intro like gave that away almost immediately. And I think as well, you're like, oh, this is like in real time. Like we're hearing what Kendrick feels about this happening right now. So I felt that was an amazing intro.
Yeah, me too. I like the Spanish intro. I don't speak Spanish, so I'm not even going to attempt to say that. But it translates to, I feel your presence here last night, and we start to cry. And then in the post-chorus, it's that reflects in your gaze, the night, you and me. I think that, first of all, this album, collectively as a whole, is like pretty much how Kendrick Lamar is like, how he's like embodying LA at this point in time. Like all the artists are LA artists. And also in Los Angeles, people speak Spanish. Yeah. Right? It's not uncommon to hear Spanish in LA. And throughout the album, there's just strings, right? Throughout, I think even on, I think it's on Gloria or Luther, there's also more Spanish in there. There's a bunch of Spanish.
On Gloria for sure.
Yeah, there's a bunch of Spanish missives throughout.
And Reincarnated.
And Reincarnated. Well. Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. right? So people are talking about this LA, ness of the entire album because of, it's Kendrick Lamar and the features and stuff like that, and even the production style. But even the Spanish is kind of like, that's part of it too.
Even down to how he met Démar, like,
yeah,
she was singing at the Dodgers game.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're right. It's LA through and through.
So it's just like, I just wanted to point that out because I think that part is kind of being missed, where like the Spanish is actually part of the localization. Like, it's a very regional album.
Yes.
And it's kind of interesting to see that over time, even though Kendrick Lamar has gotten more popular, this is the most popular he's ever been in his career.
Yes.
He's become more regionalized, more idiosyncratic, making everything smaller somehow, right? This is not even a concept album. The biggest feature is SZA.
Yep.
But he could have had Vince Staples on this easily. Could have had Tyler the Creator on this easily. Could have had trying to even think, YG could have been on this easily. But he tried to make it as small as possible, like trying to localize as possible.
SZA is the least LA thing about this project.
Yeah.
Like, so you're right. It's like, other than SZA, who's like, she's part of TDE, so it's technically we're still keeping it LA. But it's like SZA is like the breakaway from all the LA shit, and then back to everything's LA.
Yeah. So it's very interesting to see him do that. I think one of my favorite things about Kendrick Lamar on this album is swings at Drake.
Yes.
Swinging at Drake. He never says Drake's name, even though that there's a couple of songs or there's one song where he just like he's going to say Drake's name and they just cut the line.
I think that's on Whacked Out Murals.
Right? Yeah, they on Whacked Out Murals they just cut out the line where it was like I paid homage and I always mind my business. I made the blank. I never lost who I am for a rap image. It's a motivation if you wonder how I did it. Right? So there's already a section where he cuts out Drake. But then there's one of my favorite parts here on not GNX, on TV Off. Okay. Kendrick Lamar, to me, well, this is how I read it when I was reading it and listening to the song, is out here mocking Drake, okay? Where he says, this is in verse 2, he's like, hey, turn this TV off. Ain't with my type activities, then don't you get involved. Hey, what, huh? How many should I send? Send them all. Take a risk or take a trip. You know I'm tripping for my dog. Who you with? Couple of sergeants and lieutenants for the get back. This revolution will been televised. I fell through with the knickknacks, right? This whole section where it's like, you don't like my, ain't with my type of activities, don't get involved. Basically, it's like if you don't like to squabble, you can leave. You know what I mean? And even the part where he's like, take a risk or take a trip. I'm tripping for my dog. But even this part here is the best part. Is this revolution's been televised. I fell through with the knickknack. So he's here talking about the destruction of Drake was televised. Everybody saw it, right? Also, this guy's gonna be doing the Super Bowl, right? And prospectively, going to be performing not like us, maybe,
most likely.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I think this is a lot of snipes at Drake, never explicitly saying his name, but I felt like this song was about him. I'm like, oh, he's this is like a tool out of the Drake bag where you're talking about people that you're beefing or mad with on your songs, but never actually talking about them.
This is very Drake-like.
Yeah.
This is very Drake-like, and I felt a little
Drake and Taylor Swift. And Taylor Swift like.
Sure.
I've never told you how much I think Kendrick Lamar and Taylor Swift are like.
You told me this before.
Yeah.
You told me this before. I think the difference is no one's shooting back at Taylor. That's the difference. Drake people shoot back at him.
Yeah. Well, Kanye West at one time.
And we saw how that went. But I felt validated from this whole album because I had mentioned this to you on the pod, off the pod, and a bunch of people in my life at the top of the year. And it's funny that this beef ended up happening after I said this, but I was talking about Kendrick being the anti-Drake. And I said Kendrick gets the kind of authenticity points of being an underground artist.
Shame on you.
When he's actually a big mainstream artist. But Kendrick spent the last 5 months telling us he's an anti-Drake. And so this album is more of him being like, listen, I'm whatever that guy is, not like us.
I think he's just saying I'm the truth and he's not. I think that's the difference.
And but
that's not like anti. It's just like I'm me.
I'm the opposite of him.
No,
He's saying I'm the opposite of him.
No. He's not saying I'm the opposite. He's just saying I'm the realness. Drake is not. That's not the opposite.
They're synonyms. But I think that the plus that Kendrick gets from being the anti-Drake is such a great choice and move by him, because Kendrick is a mainstream artist. He's been a mainstream artist for over 10 years now. But it's almost like Tyler, the Creator. It's like being a Kendrick fan, you get the points of being a fan of someone who's underground in a way, or not the mainstream. And I think like that is probably in hip hop today the biggest, I guess, plus you can get while still being a big artist is can I still feel like I'm not a part of the mainstream machine by liking this artist? And Tyler and Kendrick are two of those artists who they're gonna do huge numbers, probably two of the best-selling albums of the year, but it somehow feels like, no, this is still not the mainstream. I'm not part of the masses. And so this album is Kendrick really doubling down on that, where it's like, that's probably never gonna go away. Even though he's breaking all these streaming records, putting up big numbers, but it's still like, no, I'm not the mainstream. I'm the real. I'm quote unquote what the underground would represent. So I think this is kind of a lesson for artists coming up who are following Kendrick's footsteps, is this is something that we haven't seen possible on this level. And I think this is kind of a new part of hip hop where you can be the best selling artist or one of the best selling artists in your genre, but still have this kind of underground, not mainstream feel about you.
Yeah, I think it's more... I think you're framing the entire genre through one artist. You're framing everything through Drake.
That's heavy.
That's what you're doing though, because I'm like, we always thought about. I'm trying to keep this neat, but we've always thought about Drake, Kendrick, and Cole as a trio.
Yeah,
right. They've existed continuously as a trio, intersecting sometimes, but they've existed as independent trios.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks J. Cole is the anti-Drake or the anti-Kendrick, right? Nobody thinks Drake is the anti-Kendrick Lamar, anti-J. Cole, but somehow you've twisted this idea into thinking that Kendrick Lamar is somehow the anti-Drake. He's like, no, he's just Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick has said it himself. I think the way I say it, it sounds like it's like a diss. Kendrick has been saying it for months. So sure, if we want to use a different phrase that makes us feel better, we can do that. But Kendrick has been saying it for months that I'm the opposite of what that guy is. I'm not him. He's not like us. He's been saying that for a few months now. So I think that now it's like this guy is the real guy. This guy is the fake guy. And so being the anti-the fake guy is like, of course I'm the anti-the fake guy. You know what I mean? But I think that that's something Kendrick has had in his kind of repertoire that is coming through on this project more than any other, especially in the lyrics. Reincarnated was such an interesting song.
Yeah.
And I said this to you before, and maybe it's because I'm a musician that I'm looking at differently, but I always feel like people aren't listening to the music. They love the celebrities. They love to be in conversations online. They want to feel involved and feel like they can have an opinion, but they're not actually listening to the lyrics. Because this song, maybe 4 bars in, I was like, oh, he's doing a Tupac impression.
Yeah, me too.
Like, right away, it was obvious. I saw people talking about this song and saying, at the end when he references Tupac, and I said, at the end?
And it's literally like the first notes that come out of the piano.
Yeah, like the beat itself is already that, but like the way that he's yelling in the midst of his bars so often and doing the Tupac thing where it starts off calm and then it starts yelling again and goes back to being calm.
Yeah, that's a very Tupac thing.
I think that like there's this, and again, it's something people listen to the music is like, I think people know what Tupac is, but do they know Tupac's music?
Yeah, you know what? When I was a teenager, that was like, Tupac was one of my favorite artists. So immediately I was like, Tupac, you're doing a Tupac because Tupac is not really like, people imitated Tupac's look for a while after his death, for years and years, but nobody could actually replicate what his music sounded like.
Yep.
Right? So to hear somebody else even attempting a Tupac, life, what was it? I don't even know, like Illuminati. Probably this is probably around Illuminati times. Trying to replicate that in any way is just like an interesting idea, because it's Tupac's music is actually kind of doesn't really sound like anybody else's.
Yeah, and I think he did a good job because this is something that is for, if you know Tupac's music, it's noticeable right away. But if you're unfamiliar with Tupac, like someone who's 20 years old, they might hear this and just be like, "Oh, this is a cool new flow he's doing."
Yeah.
Although I have heard some pushback of people saying, I don't like that he did it so, Tupac-esque. But I think that's an older crowd who they hear right away and they go, okay, I know what this is.
How do you feel about his use of reincarnation? Because he says, the song is called Reincarnated.
Yeah.
But he also, we're talking about Tupac.
Yeah.
And Tupac's, it's such a funny thing about Tupac. Like, the joke about Tupac is like, he's still alive.
He's in Cuba?
Yeah, he's alive. He's still in Cuba or something like that. And even the Dave Chappelle skin and something like that. So the idea of reincarnation is really funny too. It's like, oh, he's one of the people that thinks he's dead. And then he's somehow reincarnating them. But the idea of reincarnation that, I was about to say Tupac, that Kendrick Lamar introduces on this album, like with this song embodying Tupac in a way. And then I think in the Whacked Out Murals, he says like reincarnated on it. So how do you feel about this concept, this theme of reincarnation that Kendrick is bringing up?
I think it makes sense. Like I feel like it makes sense from the standpoint of he just had like almost like a point in his career where you're going to say before this and after this. Kendrick was already a superstar 10 times over, but we're definitely going to split his career at this point into like before the Drake beef and after the Drake beef.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I think even as much as people say he's been this guy, he's the boogeyman, Kendrick has self-awareness to know that, of like, I've reached a new point in my career. Like, I've done something that hasn't been done before. This is a new stage for me. So I feel like it feels like self-awareness to me in terms of like, the Drake beef immortalized him in a way that, again, hadn't been done before. And as well, that previous Kendrick died in a sense, because like I said before, this is the first non-concept album really we've had in over a decade. I
know, that's so weird. Kendrick Lamar is, I think I like this album a lot. We're talking so much about like the album as a concept, but the album not being a concept album is unique. It's kind of unique for him. Like, when was the last time? Damn, right?
Yeah,
but Damn still had a low-key, still had a concept.
Damn still had a theme. So this is probably like the least thematic album he's had. The verse that I really like on Reincarnated is verse 2. And he says, "Another life had placed me as a black woman in the Chitlin circuit. Seductive vocalist as a promoter hit the curtains. My voice was angelic, straight from heaven. The crowd sobbed. A musical genius with the articles emphasized. Had everything I wanted but couldn't escape addiction. Heroin needles had me in fetal position, restricted. Turned on my family. I went wherever cameras be. Cocaine, no private planes for my insanity. Self-indulged, discipline, never been my sentiments. I needed drugs. To me, an 8-ball was like penicillin. Fuck love, my happiness was in that brown sugar. Sex and melodies gave me hope when nobody's looking." That whole section, and even it goes down talking about Quaaludes and I died with syringes pinched in me. And then at the end, he says reincarnated. I think like there's a whole part of fame and sex that Kendrick Lamar has like dabbled into. Yeah. And I like this song as a vehicle to talk about that, even though this is not technically about him totally. It's more kind of in an abstract sense. But I think that, like I said before, Kendrick Lamar is one of the biggest rappers to ever live. Yeah. And so I think
climbing those GOAT rankings.
I think the kind of fame and heights that he's reached, him talking about navigating that, is something that I kind of do want to hear from him, because, he's given us this underground vibe again for so long, when it's like, no, Kendrick Lamar is a huge star. And for someone who's as open and honest as he is and talking about what he's going through and, what kind of life he's living, you want to hear that honesty from a big artist.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best things about him is that Kendrick Lamar is an honest artist. Definitely able to just really let everything flesh out. I think that another thing I want to highlight, we've been talking more about like the lyrics. But I want to talk about Peekaboo, where this is kind of like a combo of things where this is everything. So if you want to talk about production, we can talk about that here too. But like, I think this song, there's a lot of things here. So first of all, this song, where's the Blueface feature? That would have been crazy.
Yeah.
I think a Blueface feature would have been really awesome on this. But also, he has like a really unique flow, right? He's basically using, Peekaboo as a way, because like, you play Peekaboo with kids and stuff like that. And you're saying that as a way to surprise people, but he is using it basically as like the words that he is using, like the things that he's rapping about, he typically does not rap about. So him saying Peekaboo is almost like a setup to like surprise people, right?
Yeah.
So this is in verse 1 where he's like, Peekaboo, I just put them boogers in my chain. Peekaboo, 80 pointers like a Kobe game. Peekaboo, 726s, make them blank. Peekaboo, popping out, you better not smut my name. Peekaboo, put 2 foreigns on the 405. Peekaboo, Calico Pepe, I think it's Casio Pepe. If I'm doing pasta, Peekaboo, why you acting tough on IG Live? Peekaboo, my little niggas off the rocker. Right, so these first like 3 lines where he's like, boogers in my chain, 80 pointers like a Kobe game, 726s. That shit he doesn't really talk about. Kendrick Lamar doesn't really rap about jewelry like that. He doesn't really rap about like having like crazy jewelry. So like the Peekaboo is almost like a setup, like I'm talking about shit that I don't really talk about. You know what I mean? Like it's a surprise factor. So I just thought that concept was really interesting. I'm like, wow, for him to really be rapping about this type, in this style, in this way, and also about what he's rapping about was just interesting. It was cool.
And he's popping his shit, man. That's kind of why I brought up that whole thing about him being the anti-Drake, is like, Kendrick isn't J. Cole where he's dressing like a bum no matter where he goes. Kendrick has worn crazy expensive chains, the latest designer this, designer that. He's wearing the championship belt on the cover. I'm sure that wasn't cheap. So it's like, again, it's like we don't kind of include him in that, but it's like there's clearly rappers that he has more money than that talk about chains and cars, when it's like Kendrick has those things too. And it's again, coming back to Tyler, it's similar to Tyler. Tyler now, people know about his crazy car collection or how much he's into jewelry, when Tyler was in the midst of his career in the Flower Boy era, people didn't think of him as that kind of rapper.
Yeah, no.
He didn't have that persona. And I think Kendrick is like that as well, where people don't think of him as someone who has the big chains, the fancy cars. When it's like, no, he has those things. And my favorite part of this verse is 81 pointers like a Kobe game, because that game was against Toronto. So it's like,
he definitely did that shit on purpose.
Yeah. So as soon as I heard that, I said, I know that game's against Toronto. I'm sure Drake knows that as well. So I thought that was interesting. TV Off is one of those songs that everyone's been talking about. Of course, you have that beat switch that everyone loves.
That's the triumph part I was talking about, man. I feel like
I did not like that whole thing, him yelling mustard.
No, like mustard.
No. Like
what?
When I first heard it, I was like, what the hell is this? And it's funny because this is one of those things where I'm like, this is definitely of the internet changing music, because no, honestly, because there's like memes didn't exist 20 years ago. So there's no memes to make of this. If this was 20 years ago, everyone would show up to the park and talk about why he ruined that song with that yelling.
That part was awesome.
Nah, I did not like it. I did not like it. And I hope I don't hear it outside. I really hope I don't hear it outside.
That's DJ Mustard's new producer tag. What are you talking about? You're gonna hear that for the rest of your life.
No, I unfortunately.
That's his new producer tag, 100%. I love that part. I can't believe you're actually coming in here saying that you didn't like that sequence.
I hated it the first time I heard it, and when everyone was online like sending memes about it and talking about it, I was like, what is wrong with you people? Like, I know you guys want to be involved, but like, there's no way that you wanted to hear this.
I'm actually stunned by that. I cannot believe that you're saying that. I think that also the fact that it makes a beat switch, like to going from that like almost like G-Funk style production to like these really triumphant horns, right? And he's like, I feel like the song's about Drake, so that portion where it's like triumphant horns, and he's like, yo, I won. I really like that beat switch and that mustard intro.
I think it ruins the beat switch personally.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm surprised. I'm so surprised by that.
I think that part ruins the beat switch. Like, I think that what you're explaining is correct. Like, that triumphant part at the end is so good, and it kind of ends the song so nicely. But the way they switch the beat with that, it's like, It's an ear sore, honestly.
Wow,
It's an ear sore.
wow. That's going on for TikTok, man. That is crazy because I can't believe you said that. I'm actually genuinely surprised by that.
I honestly am surprised how much everyone likes it.
Yeah,
and I'm like, again, I don't know what everyone else is listening to, but I also feel like it's funny because we don't have these moments as much in movies anymore. I was saying this to someone of like back in the day, and I'm aging myself, but there was a time when a movie would come out and everyone would talk like that movie and like use those phrases.
Yeah.
And that really doesn't happen in movies anymore. You know, that's like even though we may not see the same movie, it doesn't happen anymore. Music is now the new community space for us all to like something, have an opinion on something together. And I think this is one of those moments. Because what I want to see is this. Who's listening to this song a year from now? Who was going to TV Off to hear him yell mustard?
That's one of the best songs. I think TV Off is one of the best songs.
No, TV Off is a good song.
Yeah.
But I think that part of the song is the worst part of the song.
Oh, that's going up at the Yo, this is crazy. That's going up at the concert. That's going
at the concert. Everything goes up. That doesn't mean anything.
That's going up at but that part's going up at the concert.
I've seen Kendrick 3 times. It's all going up at the concert.
I would say for Kendrick to also, I would say I'm gonna defend this. I think Kendrick is wise enough to actually have a memeable part in his, and like all of his albums have like a memeable part now. You know, like he's able to just figure out like, here's like a part that people are going to be able to hold on to. So I think that that part is brilliant. Honestly,
it works, but I don't want to go down the road of now calling him genius for that because he's supposed to be an artiste. An artiste.
You could be loud and be an artist.
No, but being artiste doesn't mean you're making things for memes. Because when we talk about rappers rapping for captions, we don't call them artiste. So when Kendrick's rapping to make memes, we can't call it's artiste shit now because Kendrick's doing it.
But I don't think it's just straight up a meme. I don't think he did it because it's a meme. I think he's like, this is cool. Also, it's going to be something people hang on to. Like, it's going to... You think he doesn't know how his concerts are going to... his concerts go?
Listen, I'm saying keep the same energy. When someone else does something that's for the memes... Let's call them genius. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. You know what I was... Every time he's like yells mustard, I'm like, in the back of my head... I want to hear Chance the Rapper at the end of it.
Wow.
I don't know why my brain says that every time.
I'm sorry to hear that.
How do you feel about the production? I mean, we've been talking about everything, but the production, the triumphant horns in TV Off, that's probably one of my favorite parts of the entire song. But what else?
Yeah, this is my last thing for production is Hey Now.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that.
Hey Now I really like. It's a very, very simple beat that kind of like, I would call it heavy breathing, but it's really not. But that, as part of the tempo for the song, I thought was really cool. This feels like a Kendrick song that possibly could have been made not in this year. You know, like I could see him, if the beef doesn't happen, there's no Not Like Us, I could see him maybe still making this song.
I like that song is one of those songs where I'm like, man, I would be interested in if Kendrick made like a gangster rap album. Like, I'm really curious on what that would sound like.
Is that not what this is? Someone called this violent hyphy music. Like that, this album is basically that. Like Kendrick is talking violence, you know, and it's funny because I think because it's after the Drake beef, all the violence we're just putting it to Drake. It's like, no, this is violent Kendrick. Like it's not all about Drake. Like on Whacked Up Murals of him talking about people not rocking with him anymore. I'm just going back inside. It's just me. Like that is a part of this that I hadn't thought about. Is like we're assuming Kendrick is now being showered with love because he took down Drake. Maybe on the internet, that's what some of y'all are feeling and thinking. But from the album, it doesn't feel like that's what's happening in real life. So this to me is the gangster rap album you're talking about.
Okay.
Like, again, I'm not putting every violent bar towards Drake. You can, of course. I'm sure there are some subs to Drake, but this is Kendrick's definitely most violent album by far.
It is. I think that the production in that, like he's like using these really weird sounds, like the sound wave and Jack Antonoff.
Like, stop. Like...
I'm using these really weird, like watery synths, and like it's still using the, I guess like hyphy West Coast drums, right? And like the cymbal crashes and shit like that. But it's really interesting to see it go from like that watery, breathy, dark to then, you know, get beat switched into that like, you know, gangster rap, like G-Funk style of production. I think that beat switch or progression, I've been trying to clarify that for people. Like beat switches are also musical progressions, you know? I think that is awesome. I thought that was cool. Multiple beat switches in this album, and they all work well. I like the one where people are yelling mustard and the beat switches as well. I'm just gonna point that out one last time. So I think that the beat switches are really good. Production is phenomenal.
Yeah. Last thing before we talk about what this means for his career is Squabble Up. There's a part in that beat where it sounds like a chair screeching as like there's like the snare, and I was like, yeah, like somehow that just fits here, and it might just be a snare that they messed with, but if it is really a chair screeching as well, I like it either way.
Yeah,
I like it either way.
That song is again super West Coast. The entire album. This is I talked about at the very beginning. Localized, regional sound, West Coast, even down to Unsquabble Up. If you know about like the history of like hip hop in LA, before hip hop was there, they were doing like dance music and techno, right? And then hip hop started to merge with that, and it kind of sounded like what it does on Squabble Up, and then it's evolved into, what we hear today. Obviously through Dr. Dre and some Dog, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But this is what it kind of sounded like at the very, very beginning, whereas like kind of techno, disco, electronic music influence, these two things combining. So it's just interesting to see him kind of go back to like the origin point. But now that shit sounds super weird compared to the rest of hip hop, like what it sounds like now. But it still sounds great. I love this West Coast funk, all this type of influences. I like the fun flow he has on the end of Squabble Up too. So I'm about it. I like West Coast music. Tupac was one of my favorite rappers ever. And the production, large part of that. Tupac's music was very nice to listen to. So I'm in. I like the production a lot, except for on GNX. That track, garbage.
I think for his career, this is definitely a win.
Yeah, one of his biggest W's, I think.
Well, I don't know. The album itself, I don't know if it's one of his biggest W's, but I think the year itself is one of his biggest W's for sure. I would say in terms of where this ranks on all his albums, this is one of the lesser ones for me. Like, I think this is in the bottom half of his projects. But I think that this is, to me, a plus because, one, it's still a good album. Still going to be very successful. He has all the eyes on him. But I think in terms of moving forward in his career, of what this means for the future of his sound, this is the most homogenous sound he's ever had on a project. Also the shortest project he's ever made. The least concept album he's ever made.
Yeah, he just made a regular album. Yeah.
And it's like, so, going forward, if that's what we can expect from Kendrick, as this more like regular albums, I'm excited to see what that phase of his career is. And as well, I think that he made a bunch of these songs that are quote unquote hype party songs, which I don't think he's had as many of those on a project ever before.
True. Yeah.
So to me, it's a plus because of that. But I think what we are entering into is like a new phase of what Kendrick Lamar's career is. And I'm just wondering how many of the old rules will remain.
I was just thinking about what you just said. Like, it's not as dense. It's more simpler of an album. The songs are more, you can play at a party. I think he's making a transition. It's like, yo, I'm going to drop mainstream like music, like regular. Because I'm saying, we're talking about it's like, regular. Like, he's just doing a regular album. So is that, well, here's the thing. Is that really true? Because I sang this before we started. The previous album was not regular. That shit was super personal.
No, but I even think this version of West Coast music is a subgenre of hip hop.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't mainstream hip hop. So maybe he's going to make it mainstream. That's why how popular he is, which I don't think that's really going to happen. But even in that sense, it's like, this is not mainstream hip hop. Like, it's just center from what he did before. Like, for him, it's more centrist.
Yeah.
But it's like, this is not like, most people had never heard of most of these features. This sound that's super like Bay Area, West Coast hyphy is definitely like left of what hip hop is in the middle.
I agree.
And so I get what you're saying, but I'm like, is he really? I don't know. I don't know if I agree if he's gonna really be making mainstream music now, because I don't know that this is mainstream music. This is more like just not as.
It's dense. It's not as dense, right? But Kendrick's music before, in the past, like To Pimp a Butterfly, obviously, Good Kid, Mad City was kind of borderline, and then the latest one. I can't remember the name of it right now.
Mr.
Mr.
Morale.
Morale. Those were like, you got to read the lyrics. Right? You got to read the lyrics. Section 80 before, not so much, but he wasn't as popular. Hopefully Dedicated wasn't as popular, right? Even though songs are really good on those albums.
Yeah.
But he's kind of like had this weird trajectory where it was like kind of less dense, a little bit more expansive, a little bit more fun, and then it got really, really fucking dense for a few albums.
Yeah.
Then Damn was kind of like a blip, and then it came back together, right? And I feel like maybe this is the blip again, where we're getting to see more of like, more, it's just like easier to fucking play at places.
Yeah. Which I think remains to be seen, because that's the other thing is like, again, we're in Toronto. I'm sure on the West Coast, all our West Coast listeners
They're
and
playing all this
viewers, different. But it's
Peekaboo is going up.
But it's kind of like how if you want to hear dancehall in America, you got to be in either New York or Miami, or you basically got no shot. And it's like, I don't see people playing this out right now, like at parties, events. Like, you don't hear this West Coast type of music before Not Like Us. I really wasn't playing.
Yeah.
So if we do hear this, this is Kendrick's doing. Like, we got to give him almost full credit, because as much as we're saying this is more of that sound compared to what he did before, we're not going to parties and hearing this.
Vince Staples, you're not listening to Vince Staples at a party.
Vince Staples this is even more than West Coast than Vince Staples. Like,
West Coast and Vince Staples.
So it's like we're not going. Like, you tell me, are you going places and hearing stuff like this? Because I'm not.
Yeah, not really. No.
So it's like it's like, I'm not saying we're moving the goalposts for him, but it's like that's what this technically is. But to me, this is almost like him making a subgenre album. It's like how on For All the Dogs, Drake has that song on there with Yeet, and then he might have a song with Playboi Carti on the previous project.
Yeah.
It's like a Drake did a whole album of those. Do we want to hear that? Maybe some people do, but this is like Kendrick doing a version of that. It's like a full album of the subgenre that I'm into. But I think it's a plus for his career.
Me too.
The one thing I want to say before we talk about the cover is I've actually heard pushback of people saying that they don't like how homogenous it is, and that they don't like how these songs remind them of Not Like Us, and it's too much of the same sound.
Okay, well.
And someone said Squabble Up and Not Like Us sound the same. I thought that was kind of crazy. But
Go ahead, sorry.
But I brought that up to go to my point of, this is not what the masses want to hear when they go out. I think, like, this is a subgenre that is enjoyable to listen to. It's fun, but the masses still want to go outside and hear Bands and Maker Dance or whatever the center of hip hop song is. The new 21 Savage, the latest Future. So I think, yes, we're excited for Kendrick. We like that this is the sound. I think we're all getting our footwork to this. But in reality, the middle of hip hop still wants to hear Future and Moneybagg Yo.
Yeah, we'll see, because I think TV Off is gonna go crazy. I think that is gonna be the song that endures big time.
You know what I you know what I think, Scoop? Because I think TV Off and Squabble Up are both those that could play outside, but I see them as the songs that play, and you got whatever 30% of the crowd going crazy, and the other half is like, stop this, because that's what Dreams and Nightmare has become.
You're underestimating how popular Kendrick Lamar is.
I think you're overestimating how Kendrick Lamar
I don't think so.
Yeah,
we just talked about he's the most famous he'll ever be, and he's about to do the Super Bowl.
But I think that this is like this. Here's what this is: the internet has a very big stake in Kendrick Lamar's success, and in the internet, Kendrick Lamar is someone that they love. In real life, and you tell me if I'm wrong, the past 12 years, and I'm a big Kendrick fan. I've seen Kendrick 3 times. I'm a huge Kendrick fan. I've been going out for over a decade and seeing people not playing Kendrick or asking people to turn Kendrick off.
Right, but what we were talking about before is like, it was more dance. You're not playing you at fucking...
No, but I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the songs that would play, like even All Right, which I love. I've been out and All Right plays, and I love to hear All Right, and someone's like, turn this shit off.
Right.
So I think on the internet, everyone loves Kendrick, but when you're outside and someone wants to hear March Madness, someone's not going to want to hear Kendrick over March Madness.
Okay, we'll see.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that is the one thing here, that even though it's a plus in general, is that we're almost losing sight of kind of the objectivity of, we may like it as the internet people who consume music and we're all loving it together. But again, the people who are not part of that internet discourse, they're kind of just like.
We'll see. I'm up. I'm up on this album. I'm up on Kendrick Lamar. I'm always more up on him than you. I feel like
that's actually not true.
that is
That's actually not
1,000% true.
No,
Since the beef started, I've been
I'm just
pro.
I'm just
Kendrick
not a fanboy. That's the.
I don't. No, but that's literally it right there.
I gotta be a fanboy.
No, it's because this is how much people actually revere him, and you're just down. You're like, again, if somebody was like, "Yo, LeBron James,
this is
second best player of all time," and you're like, "Yo, he's top 10." Like that's you. That's you and Kendrick Lamar.
That's not this.
Yes, it is. That's exactly what this
because
is.
I've been outside and seen what really happens. It's like this. People revere Mos Def. That doesn't mean they want to hear Mos Def in the party.
But he's never as popular as Kendrick Lamar, though.
No, but here's the point. Being popular doesn't mean they want to hear you in the party.
But it's
because Tyler the Creator is also very popular.
Yeah.
People ask him to hear Tyler the Creator in the party. I think you're going off how popular on the internet, as in like, if they want to hear you on the internet, they want to hear you in the party.
This guy's out here winning posters, winning Grammys, approval of white people. And then there's also the internet. Like he has
when do they want to hear Eminem in the party?
Universal acclaim, bro.
Eminem, I think the acclaim, the stuff you're talking about, is not what I'm talking about. The acclaim, selling well, winning Grammys, is not. People want to hear you in the party.
People in the streets, who in the streets is not? Who doesn't respect Kendrick Lamar? Who does? Like that's really where I am. I'm like, people. Where are the people who don't think Kendrick Lamar's music is good or listenable?
People respect him, but do they want to hear? That thing, I can go back. Do they want to hear him? I'm not saying that he's not respected. I don't think he's very talented because I'm a bigger Kendrick Lamar fan than anybody. But I'm just saying, I know that when I go out and if I try to put Kendrick on the aux, someone's coming to get me real fast.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you right now, TV off. We're gonna be hearing that.
Okay, so listen. Let us know in the comments, and as this video grows, if you go out and you hear more than one song from this project out,
please hit us up so I can rub it in Adriel's face.
No, and if you're on the West Coast, it doesn't count. No West Coast. No,
look at the caveats. Here come the caveats.
No West Coast.
Here comes the caveats.
But yeah, if you're in Philadelphia and you hear two songs off this project. Because that's the thing is, I know you've been outside and saying, you know when you've been outside all these years, you're not hearing multiple Kendrick songs in no event you've ever been to.
Okay.
Fact or fact?
It depends. It depends on the audience.
That's my thing is, because I could have a Kendrick set for someone, but I know when I go out, no matter where I'm at, I'm not hearing multiple Kendrick songs. So
we'll see in the future. How do you feel about the cover? This black and white cover.
Before I talk about the cover, I want to know that Démar didn't answer me.
What?
I asked you, true fact or fact, are you going out and hearing more than one Kendrick song in a night?
Watch, we will. Going into 2025.
I'm saying over. He's had number one hits already. I'm saying since we've been around, since Section 80 till now, have you gone out and heard more than one Kendrick song in a night?
You can hear swimming pools and Humble at a party. You can.
That sounds like a trash party.
You can hear Humble at a party? Wow, okay.
Yeah,
that's
thank
tough.
you.
You're not hearing Humble at a party? Wow, that's crazy.
The parties that you're going hearing Humble at are parties I don't want to be at.
I can't believe you're not hearing Humble at a party. But maybe I'm just maybe I'm just in a blacker I'm in a blacker space than you.
That's not a blacker space if you're hearing Humble. If you're hearing Humble,
if I'm hearing Kendrick Lamar, you're not hearing Kendrick Lamar. I must be in a blacker space than you. Like
the party that plays Humble is so backwards. The Kendrick songs to play at a party is all right.
I feel like
Win.
I feel like
the King's Dead. If they're playing Humble before any of those three, you're at a crazy party. I just
feel like if I'm hearing Kendrick Lamar at a party, multiple Kendrick Lamar songs, you're not. I just feel like I'm in a blacker space than you.
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true.
Okay.
You think that from Humble?
Well, I'm hearing you're not hearing Kendrick Lamar songs.
Even Chris knows that's crazy. Like, if you're in a black space playing Kendrick and you play Humble, like, your black card's taken. Like, there's no way you're in a black space and Humble's the Kendrick song you play.
I'm just saying.
All right is the one.
I'm just saying, I'm hearing Kendrick Lamar songs and you're not. So.
Yeah, from the performative whites. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on. Okay. Performative whites in the comments.
Oh my God.
You know that I'm right. Because everyone knows the Kendrick song to play is all right. And Démar didn't name it.
Oh my God.
So we know where he's at and who's who. The cover. I like the cover a lot. It's very simple.
Black and white. We're in a black and white era right now because even Tyler the Creator was doing black and white.
Sure.
Black and white. LA people are feeling real depressed right now.
Yeah.
Sad times in LA.
I think this whole year has been a bunch of black and white albums.
Oh my God.
I think Taylor's album was black and white as well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a black and white era right now.
Yeah, I like it. The black and white doesn't really hold that much weight to me. I feel like
Crossroads, Corday's album was black.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's just the era. But again, it's like, is it really as cool if everyone is doing it? Like that everyone's album is black and white. Like,
I know.
You know, it's like I do want to be like, he's such a genius and he created black and white.
He did not create black and white. I mean, To Pimp a Butterfly was black and white. He was doing that before.
He created black and white, yeah, for anybody else in 2015. The first black and white album. But I like the cover, though.
I like the cover. I like his belt. I like his championship belt. He's definitely wearing that like it's a championship belt.
He's wearing a Squabble Up video, too.
So he's wearing the belt I like. The car is interesting. I didn't really think Kendrick Lamar was a car person, but this is actually the second time he's had an automobile on his cover because he had the van before. So there's that. I think it's good continuation, right? This is the most popular he's ever been. When Good Kid, Mad City came out, that was like an arrival, right? So there's a nice connection between those two albums. So I like it. Do you think it's a no skips?
No, not no skips.
What's the skip? What are you skipping?
Okay, if I'm being fair, Dodger Blue, I'm not really feeling Dodger Blue. It's cool, but it's kind of boring to me.
Okay.
And then I think Man at the Garden, it's...
I like sacrilege.
No, I love Man at the Garden, but I can't not hear One Mic when I hear that song. Like every time that song starts, like literally the first time I heard it, I was like, this is One Mic. And I should be able to separate those, but I really can't not hear it. So when I'm listening to the song, I'm like, he did a One Mic cover. I feel like Kendrick Lamar is past doing covers. But yeah, not no skips for me.
Yeah, that song, just to break for a second, that song, I'm trying to figure out where the fuck that bass sound is from. Is that from like Hands Where Your Eyes Can See by Busta Rhymes? I'm trying to figure out
that bass?
That boop, boop, boop. That boop boop sound, where is it from? Like it's from a beat pack of somebody else is using or something like that. But otherwise, I think it not a no skips because GNX is on this album. So that's an issue for me. That's a pretty easy skip for me personally. So there's that. Is it a vinyl cop though?
I like the cover. I like the cover, but I don't think this is the vinyl cop for me.
I think for me it is a vinyl cop because it's also like a moment too.
No, it is a moment for sure. It is a moment for sure. But I guess like it's a moment. So it's for the cover. Yeah. But I think like I don't know, like this will be a vinyl that I would not play very often if I'm being real. Like, okay. So if I can already feel that way, then I feel like I shouldn't cop it.
Right.
You know? I listen to all my vinyls. Right. So I don't need to buy another vinyl to not play.
That's true. I think for me. It's also I think the music is good, first of all. And I also think that it kind of signifies a moment. It's like, yo, this is the album he dropped after destroying Drake and the Beef. Yeah. So that is that's also important too. Also, I think it looks cool. Okay. The moment we've all been waiting for. Yeah. Adriel Smiley, aka AdrielSmiley.com, aka Mr. Smiley, aka the Podfather. Or Godfather, sorry. Podfather is Bill Simmons. What is your score for GNX by Kendrick Lamar?
Kendrick Lamar's GNX is a 7 out of 10 for me. I like you can breathe. I like this album a lot.
Respectable.
Like this album is very good. I'm separating myself from the stands on the internet. If you guys want to give this 11, your body, your choice, more power to you. But this album is good, and I think this to me is a Kendrick Lamar album we haven't seen before. Yeah. And I think that has some novelty to it that makes this album even more enjoyable than it already is. So this is a 7 for me.
7.5 you said?
7.
7?
Yeah.
I thought didn't you say 7.5? Oh, Chris.
7.
Chris didn't Oh, wow.
Wishful thinking.
Less respectable than I thought it would be. Okay, so for me, GNX by Kendrick Lamar is an 8.5 out of 10. Wow. I think this album is amazing. I love the production. Except for a GNX. I like the sample. We didn't even talk about the SWV sample.
One of my favorite songs.
That's one of the better songs. I think that, hearing a Tupac song in real life in 2024 is it's that's a different beast. Okay, I didn't think you would ever be hearing stuff like that. I like turn it off or turn the TV off. I like that song. I think that song is a moment.
Yeah.
So I think the production's fantastic. I think the rapping, it's Kendrick Lamar. So we're going to hear top tier rapping. I talked about Peekaboo, where he's kind of using. I think he's using a little bit more gimmicks now. You know, even on Peekaboo, where he's like, you know, what are you talking about nothing, where he's like rapping past the beat and stuff like that. So there's a little bit more gimmicks, a little bit more repetition. You know, turn this TV off, turn this TV off, turn this. You know, he's doing that. So I'm seeing more, just like fun. He's just doing fun shit now, which is stuff that he did not do. He was never just before he was making songs, I have a message, right? Now he's making songs like, oh, what if we repeated this lyric, or what if we tried to make a hyphy beat? What if we tried to kind of make like a little bit R&B-ish type of track? Like he's trying to do more things artistically in a sense of like going to different places versus in the past he was doing things different artistically. It's like, what type of message are we doing? What type of concept are we doing? It's like, let's just experiment with the composition of my songs versus the song crafting and theory crafting of my music. So I like that a lot. GNX does exist on this album. Genuinely, I think is one of his worst songs ever. I'm not even joking. And I think that Reincarnate, I will dock him a little fragment of a point. This is a Tupac song. This is a Tupac song. I understand the concept of the reincarnation thing, but that was a Tupac song. So it's an 8.5 out of 10.
Wow.
Very good. One of the better rap songs. I think this is one of the better rap albums that came out this year.
For sure.
Lifestyle is better than it, though.
Very interesting take. I have no comment on that one.
But yeah, so this is one of the better albums this year. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Album Mode, where we are just talking about our favorite albums every week. We're talking about the most interesting shit that comes out every week. Make sure you're in the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe to this video. Talk to me. I want to hear what you guys feel about TV off. Whether or not they actually like the mustard section that mystically Adriel does not like. I am genuinely stunned by that. I don't understand. I don't even get it. I actually just don't get it. That's like not liking Fiend or something.
I'm not the only one. A lot of people hate Fiend.
Well, they hate it now, but at the beginning they were like, "This is the hot shit."
A lot of people hated it from the beginning.
But yeah, so it's like not liking the Underwater Effect on a Drake song or something. Like, you know what I mean?
People don't like that too, man.
You guys are weirdos. Weirdos. So yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in, and make sure you guys subscribe to us on all the socials: Instagram @AlbumoPod, TikTok @AlbumoPod, Twitter @AlbumoPod. Oh, we're just on Album Mode at TikTok, right? So thank you everybody for tuning into Album Mode. And Adriel, make sure you know yourself and know your worth.
Later days.